Learn to be thankful for all that is yours. Love one another. The Christ mind opens the door to God, the peace that passes understanding. This is why I keep talking to you. This is why at every retreat I do my best to bring the golden man, the golden light, the clean, clear mind, the Christ mind, the Buddha mind. I don't care what you call it, but that state of mind cleans and clears and brings forth the freedom to know the divine self, because your images hold you back. The mind that you have used and strange in different ways. Two eternal truths. One, whatever a man think of, he is at once in touch with. This is why when you ask me, I say, all you have to do is think about it. And you have to think about it with a one point in mind. And when you do, you're there. But as long as your mind grasshoppers around, you can't make it. This is why we give you all these exercises, so that maybe one of them will work. So you have to develop concentration. You have to put your mind on a channel, just like a ray, and that mind will take you to where you focus it. So how long does it take to know your divine self? A twinkling of an eye, or a hell of a long time to get your mind to shut up. It's just that simple. Whether a friend living or called dead, you can be with him. Thought is universal. Two, whatever a man loves, he can never, never lose. Never lose. For love is eternal. It is one of the laws that attracts and holds. It doesn't separate, brings you together. So those of you who want to be together again in another lifetime, be sure you're doing it in a loving way. Then you will enjoy life. It'll be happy. It'll be wonderful to be together again. But if you get into the hate role, you're going to come back again. And are you going to have fun? So if you're going to split up, any of you, for God's sake, have the common sense to do it with a kind, gentle compassion for each other, and stop the stupid hating and cussing. Because you'll come back. Honest God, I give you your money back if you give any. Money back guaranteed. You're going to come back together again, and you're going to pay for what you've done. So if you got to split with good friendship and forgiveness, so there'll be no karma debt. Split with anger, you'll come back. And you'll pay for it. Now there's two classes of people, generally spoken of. The quick. The quick live the purpose of life and raise to a higher level of consciousness. That's why we quicken you and help you move to a higher state of awareness. We do all we can to help you. The other is called the dead. The walking robots await the grave. Now the dead are really not in the grave yet, but are walking in physical bodies on the planet. I am not talking about soulless people here. I'm talking about the people who have not awakened into these upper levels of consciousness. To say it in church terms, they have not been born again. To be born again is to go into the golden light and to wake up and put on your golden Christ body and move through that into your atom light of 1,000 suns. That is being born again. All this other is emotional nonsense. If I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry, but damn it, you come to know the truth. When you know the truth shall set you free. Those who wander in belief will cause hate and separation. They will tell lies, falsehoods, and crazy stories about other people. They will repeat things that are not true. Those who are awakened into this Christ state and live with the Christ heart, which is a state of consciousness. Jesus the teacher, the living Christ. We want to be kind and gentle as we possibly can. We want to try to understand what the other person is going through so we can help them. We're not interested in putting anybody down. Why can't we learn that we are responsible for whatever happens to ourselves? And that responsibility is in the law of cause and effect. And if you do something ugly, you shall have something ugly done back to you. If you do something kind and gentle and loving, you will have something kind and loving done back to you. Now, please don't look at me and say, well, Audley's done everything kind and gentle. Hell, I have. When I was young and thought I was ready for the Golden Glove champ, I got into a lot of trouble. And some of it I've been able to clean up. In the New Testament, for as the Father raises up the dead and to quicken them, so the Son quicken who is born again. The Son is this Christ light. And when you go into that Christ light, you are birthed again. And then he who can take you up into the Godhead quickens you. And that's why we call our initiations or baptismal or whatever you call, I call it quickenings. John the Baptist said, I have come to baptize you in the waters. Really, he was talking about the atom structure of the air, to wake you up to the atom consciousness. So everybody dunks everybody in water. But he said, John said this, and I think this is something people forget or miss. The one who comes after me shall baptize you in fire, this light. And when you come to me and become my disciple, and I accept you, I quicken you into the light, the fire. The same beautiful light that Jesus did when he touched others. Believe it or not, don't make any difference to me. I know what I do. I know what God has given me the gift to do, and I do it because I have been given the job to do it. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet shall sound and the dead shall be raised incorruptibly. When you listen to the sounds of your kingdom raising up through the centers of your consciousness, and when it gets right in here, there is a magnificent trumpet that will blow. And the walls of darkness, called the walls of Jericho, come tumbling down. And you begin to see the great light. It is the sweetest sound I believe I have ever heard. I've heard lots of sound. But that trumpet is like a gold and silver horn blowing. It's the most beautiful sound. And all of a sudden, bingo, you're full of light. It's really quite a moment. And it can happen to you. It says, raised incorruptible. You are. The mind that was cunning and clever and greedy changes. It changes to where you want to use your mind in the most beautiful, wonderful way that you know. No longer do you want to cheat. No longer do you want to hurt. You try to use your mind in the way that it should be used as a creative tool. It says we shall all be changed, and that is true. The light of Christ eliminates the darkness of death. Spirit trumpets over matter. Ye must be born again into the light. What you don't realize, my beloved friends, is you died to come here. This is the land of the death. It's all backwards. The other side is the life of the living. And when you are able to develop your awareness, like this little one is trying to help you find, and can travel into those beautiful states consciously, then this will seem like a pit, a terrible place. because you're so free, and the mind that becomes so divine, so beautiful. When you want to come back or have to come back, I'll guarantee you put on the brakes. No. And the minute you're born, you will go, wah! But after a while, you get synced into this physical body, and you forgot where you came from. We're here to build a living soul. A living soul is full of consciousness. And when you have perfected your oversoul, and all lights of that pattern are full, you won't have to come back unless you decide you want to come back to serve and teach to help. The body, this physical body, is a temple of the living God. It's you. Man is forever butting his nose into or trying to destroy somebody else's temple. Just think how ugly some people are, even in their religious ways. Putting people down, calling them names, saying ugly things, kicking them out of the church because they might have had sex with somebody and found out about it, or they might have took a drink, or whatever. How can you help somebody if you kick them out when they need help? Let people leave on their own. Sure, people come and people go, but they go on their own. I don't tell them to get out. The people who experience the Christ light beyond this body awareness have the desire to help. It's all up to you. Because if you don't do it, it don't belong to you. The transcendental happening always brings gratefulness for the life that we are now living. Plato said, we are buried in the graves of the bodies to set right our mistakes in a former life. Plato, Socrates' buddy. He's saying the same thing I say. And there's no reason why he shouldn't, because I was among those guys. I was there. And when I had the privilege of being with Gene Martin, and we went up on Acropolis Hill, I had the privilege of being with my old friend Socrates. You can ask Jean. She was there and watched it. And I was in the front of this great, beautiful, what do you call it, Parathon? And I said, where's Socrates? And the brothers who I was talking to said, he's on the other side. Go over to the other side. So I told Pauline and Jean, I said, let's go on the other side. Socrates is there. So I was walking along like this, and all of a sudden this voice reared out into my ears. Hey, Herclides, you at it again? I turned around, and there he sat on that rock. And I went over, I said, may I blend with you? I went over and sat on this rock, and the hair just stood straight up. You ask, where is Jean? She's someplace here. And I told Jean, go sit over there, Jean, and see what happens. She said, oh my God. Ooh. Listen, there's a lot of fantastic things that can happen to you. When you wake up. Wake up. We've lived before. We'll live again. The word body comes from the word bodhi, from which we get the word abode, which means the dwelling place. And Genesis is called the coat of skin. Some places the schools call it the uniform. We've learned to call it the human body. Man, the spirit, when the oversoul is reached, man becomes an awakened being. Such a one is immune from the dreamed death. You'll find that in that state, weapons of war cannot hurt it. Fire cannot burn it. Hunger and starvation cannot reach it. Wind cannot dry it up. The oversoul and the spirit liveth on to more wonderful heights and beautiful states of consciousness. That's not the end, it is a beginning of most grand things to come. In meditation, this can be reached. The only frightened part is when we go through the dark tunnel, and all of us have to go through that dark tunnel. And what is that dark tunnel? When we start leaving the physical body, in the head there's what is called the third ventricle. It is a hollow place in your head, often called the cave of Shiva, the tomb of Christ Jesus. We have to go through it. It's right in the head. We get scared. It's black. It's dark. It is scary. But if you're not frightened, and especially if you learn how to hold on to me, I take you through. And once you go through a couple of times, you're no longer afraid. That's why you have to have a living teacher. A dead one can't do it for you. We have to enter into that golden light, that brilliant white light. We have to become free. As a person goes into the heaven world, so to speak, we see and enter great scenes of beauty. Pleasant views, lights of all kinds flash, and they are all luminous lights, lights that shine from within themselves. There is no sun, and that's the reason when somebody tells me they are in the Akashic records, and I tell them, describe it, and they say, well, it looks just like the physical world. They're not in the Akashic records, because the Akashic records are dark and twilight, and everything in the record is self-illuminous. Second physical, it's just like this, only you don't cast a shadow. So when people tell me, well, I travel in the Akashic records, well, what did you do? Oh, I travel to here and I travel to there, and I visit this home and I visit this home. And of course I say, well, it sounds very interesting, because I don't like to put anybody down. Now, if they come out and ask me, was I really in the Akashic records? I'd have to say, no, you are not. You were in the second physical. We have to watch our attachments of desire. Most of our desires are family ties, or the ego importance that is built in a business or in some part of a society, trying to be some big muckety-muck. People like those who become senators and presidents and big generals and all that stuff, they usually have a hell of a time. At the time when death comes, there is what is called cutting off the blood from the brain. And a person who is developed in meditation does not lose consciousness like a person usually does. Such a person will withdraw from the feet, the heart, the middle of the head, through the third ventricle, and pop through the silver cord into the Christ state. Otherwise, they will be lost in the second physical, wander around, go into the records, have the review, then go into the golden light, clean up the mind, then go into what we call the cosmic state of mind, where they will have their heaven world and their causation, and then go into the white light and clean up the whole mess. In meditation, this takes place. Now, maybe not in all kinds of meditation, I can't say. But the ones I teach you, it does, if you work at it. The separation of the physical body into your etheric body and on into these other states for you to wake up, so that there's no fear and there's no loss of consciousness when death comes, so you don't have to be put to sleep. Often we can find ourselves floating above the physical form, connected by a ribbon of silver hue. And this is what Shirley, whatever her name is, McLean is doing. She's having out-of-body experience tied to the silver cord, floating around, which is quite a game. I did that, 20 years ago. And I found out that's not the thing to do. We have to go inside the card and into our kingdom. I grant you that it's a lot of fun, because I used to do it a lot. But it's not to find the answers. In the Bible, Ecclesiastes 12, verse 6 and 7, if ever the silver cord is loosened, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is broken at the fountain, or the wheel be broken at the cistern, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return to God who gave it. Vanities of vanity, says the preacher. All is vanities. What we don't want to do is break that cord before the time comes for us to leave the body. Sometimes it happens. When it does, we start the review. It is much better to start your review before the cord is broken. And if any of you have been around a person who is dying a natural death, they will begin to tell you the stories of their life, gradually going back, telling all the details of their life, plumb back to when they were a kid. And when they get back to the child, they'll go forward and they'll tell it again. And then they'll tell it again. And they'll tell it again. They have started their review. You can be pretty sure that it won't be long before that person passes over. As the card breaks, the review continues through the soul pattern called the memory of habit. The ones left behind, I assure you that you'll be a much better loved one if you will not express grief for a long time. Yes, there'll be a few tears at that moment for a day or two. But please, for that loved one's movement and consciousness, don't home and grind and cry and scream for months on end. It is like if you went in and laid down to go to sleep, and somebody come in and took you, said, "Are you asleep? Are you asleep?" And about every hour, they said, "Are you asleep?" By the end of the week, what are you going to do? Listen, if you really love somebody, give them the freedom that you should. Say goodbye. And thank them for the wonderful times you've had, and let them go. Don't hold on with this crazy sadness. Those who hold on, someday, sometime, are going to meet that person, and they're not going to like you. And they're going to give you a hell of a time for a while. You wonder, why was I born in this family and treated like dirt? You set it up. Am I supposed to quit at 8:30? Well, we'll start again.